This is the truth about the Kenyan economy, and every other person knows that this is a fact. In this country, there are so many funding programs that are promising to enable small businesses to grow in the country. Another fact is that 80% of employment in this country is essentially carried by small businesses, or is essentially in the informal sector. Now, the question that we're asking this morning is that, do these small monies come with big promises? That's the question that we're asking. And so the question also that follows that is that, do funding programs really build businesses? Let me just give you a case in point. The Nyota program that the president has been selling across the country promises to give Kenyans around 50,000 shillings. That is the first tranche of 25,000 shillings, and the second tranche of 25,000 shillings, save for the 6,000 shillings that is supposed to go into your retirement savings. Good. After that, the youth have promised, or have been promised, to be given this money that is therefore supposed to go into building their small businesses across the country. That is done and dusted. But if you look at the other parts of that program, they're also coming in with proper training of this youth on how to handle this money, first on which businesses they can get into and how to grow this business. But then, if you look at the country, especially over the last decade, Kenya has been experimenting with small-scale funding as a pathway to economic growth, from county enterprise funds and youth and women financing schemes to donor-supported MSME programs and fintech-driven credit. Billions of shillings have been channeled into early-stage businesses. Now, under global development research, including World Bank assessments on small and medium enterprises, consistently show that capital alone is not essentially what builds sustainable businesses. What matters, according to them, is that there has to be a proper funding that is designed, communicated, supported, and integrated into the wider ecosystem, which, according to them, includes skills development, market access, policy stability, and trust. Listen, that's what we talk about this morning. How are we getting these small monies with big promises? Do funding programs really build businesses in the country? That is the question that we're asking this morning, and we're going to have a finance expert in the studio this morning to take you through what you need to know about that program that is promising you small money with a big promise of self-sustainability, that you can start and grow your business and become independent from today onwards. I mean, that's what this business is coming, and that's the promise that they give to you. Can we interrogate it this morning? Can we ask proper questions around it? Even programs like the Nyota program, the MSME Enterprise Fund that is currently active in the country. Do these small monies come with big promises? And what do you need to do? What needs to make a funding program proper? Look Up TV across all your social media platforms. The hashtag is The Morning Drift. My name is Simba Elijah Charles Kiage. Thank you very much for choosing to begin your day with us right here on Look Up TV on this 11th day of February 2025. There's a lot that we're going to talk about this morning. Let's then take a look at what you're waking up to this morning in your dailies. And as usual, we're going to jump into the Daily Nation. It's talking about an unholy alliance. Now, there is a bribery scandal that has sparked a bitter feud between governors and senators that exposes underhand dealings and a conspiracy to defeat accountability. Governors have vowed to name and shame corrupt senators who claim extort bribes to go easy on audit queries An extortion racket, they admit, has thrived for too long. But senators have dared county bosses to make good their threats to snap watchdog committees, questioning why governors would pay bribes if they had nothing to hide. Who will blink first? Story has been covered on page 4 and 5 of the Daily Nation. The big story here is an unholy alliance. Now, let's look at some of the quotes then we're getting this morning. The chair of the Council of Governors, Mohammed Abdullahi, was saying, we narrowed down our issues to one committee, and certain members of that committee, Senate standing orders require that if certain people are mentioned, they step aside from that committee. I have written to the Senate Speaker seeking an audience with the leadership of the Senate. Whatever evidence governors have, we are going to table. Something is going to change in that particular committee. That's what the chair of the Council of Governors is talking about. Now let's go to the Senate Speaker, Amason Kingi, who's saying the Senate notes the purported demand by the Council of Governors for the reconstitution of the County Public Accounts Committee on the basis of claims of political witch hunt, harassment, extortion, and intimidation, allegedly involving 4 unnamed members of the committee. While the Senate remains open to structured dialogue, recourse to misleading and unsubstantiated allegations in the media and supported by evidence is neither appropriate nor conducive for intergovernmental cooperation. That's what Amason Kingi is saying. We did say they have, some of them are promised that they're going to snap those sittings if indeed that issue is not looked into. And that issue, according to them, is changing the face of that Public Accounts Committee by the Senate. How this goes is just for us to watch and see. I mean, it's been a developing story, because even yesterday I did read for you some of the names of governors who've never honored the invitation of that Public Accounts Committee by the Senate. And I mean, if anything goes by, have we seen anything that has come out of the Public Accounts Committee? I mean, their investigations, they're just called investigations. We'll follow on the story as well. Let's look at other stories that you are waking up to this morning. Here it is. There's a story here on Gachagua tax on Ruto over drought ahead of tour. Now, former Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua has accused the government of delaying emergency response to drought ravaging northern Kenya, even as the cabinet approved a release of 4.1 billion shillings to help the affected regions. I mean, look at those pictures right there. There's a picture of an emaciated cow at a village near Magadi town in Kajiado County on the 5th of February. That date is when that picture was taken. The rains have delayed. We do know that. I mean, up to now, majority of the country has not received the rainfalls that was expected to start as of last week. We're still waiting, because you can tell. I mean, our weather forecast today also looks quite predictable, as it was yesterday as well, and you can see how it is this morning as well. I mean, sad reality as it is, isn't it? Good. Let's look at another story here. You're going to read that story on page 6. Now, report warns of 166 billion deficit that could sink SHA again. Now, an analysis by the Institute of Economic Affairs, IEA, has shown that a 166 billion deficit could cripple the Social Health Authority, even at a time when we're talking about the corruption that is within that fund, after just news that they had lost 11 billion shillings in just 14 months of operation. Sad reality that keeps on hitting SHA. Good. There's a story here on page 7. ODM crisis talks after Uhuru's Azimio move with the deepening power struggle between factions led by party leader Bubu Dinga and Secretary General Edwin Sifuna. ODM leaders convene in Mombasa to discuss contentious issues. The National Executive Committee meeting comes amid reports Dr. Oginga on Monday sought to stem an implosion following a largely successful rally in Busia by a rival camp. Now, the meeting will also discuss the political coup in Azimio coalition staged by former President Uhuru Kenyatta. I mean, things are burning. Vile wanasema moto inachemka tu pole pole within ODM, isn't it? This is if you're counting since last year at around September, this could be the fourth crisis meeting that ODM is getting into. Remember the one at Chungwa House, the one in Mombasa, the one by the trustees. Now they're going for another one as well. 4 times. Yo kwa familia yako bwana, kienda crisis meetings mingi hapo kuna shida mjatatua. How it goes is just for us to come and watch again and report it to you as well. On that note, let's cross over to the Standard this morning, see what they have for you. It's such a sad headline that we have for you this morning. It is talking about how Kenyans are staring at death as Ruto splashes millions. That's the headline that we have for you this morning. And let me just read it for you. See what it is. As millions across the country scrap leaves from trees and watch their livestock die, children abandon school to forage, mothers go without meals, and communities age towards collapse. Power feasts in Nairobi in State House meetings presided over by the president. Millions exchange hands and opulence in broadcast for all and sundry. Calls to declare the drought a national disaster fell on deaf ears, with the interventions from the government haphazard, not reaching the affected. Story has been covered on page 2, 3, and 4 of the Standard this morning. There's a picture here of a man who's waiting for rations from the World Vision, that is Kenya, on the February of 7th. Drought in Turkana is the worst as it has ever been. And by the way, February is now among the driest months recorded in the history of this country since records began. Again, January was also the driest in the country since records began as well. And that stark contrast here is what the Standard is talking about. It smiles by the president as meetings go to State House, but the rest of the Kenyans are scraping for leaves from trees and going without food as money exchanges hands as well. That's the headline that the Standard has for you this morning. Do you agree? Talk to us at Lookup TV across all your social media platforms. I am at Kenya Simba. Let's get talking. All right, let's then cross over. On the other pages as well, on page 4 and 5, there is a story here on how indigenous knowledge economy can net 230 billion shillings. Pages on 4 and 5. Innovation that creates breakthrough companies. Page 6. There's a story here on how Israeli envoys bid to make Kenya a startup nation. That story has been covered on page 3. That's what we have for you. Majority of these stories, by the way, also appearing on our social media platforms at Lookup TV across all of them. Good. On that note, let's cross over and see what is trending online this morning for you. I'm going to start with the first one. This is a story, yes, of one Kenyan, Eric Omondi, who was kicked off a 486-kilometer walk of love from Nairobi to Mombasa. The Sisi kwa Sisi charity walk began at Nyayo Stadium and will end on February 14th at Mamangina waterfront, raising funds to build a Sisi kwa Sisi help and rescue center by the comedian. All right, let's take a look at how it started yesterday then.
Guys, we are off.
We are off.
We are off. Safari ya kwenda Mombasa imeanza. Eric Omondi anaenda Mombasa kwa miguu. Tuko Nyayo stage, safari imeanza. Ni moto. Parada bana. Mombasa ni kwa ajili ya mgogo na hiyo Omondi na tunakuja
So you see how nowadays we have Grok on X, and is one of the, for me, that's one of the best inventions on X. I mean, that there, even Facebook should be having their AI model just to verify information that is online. If you're not on X, then you should be on X so that you can talk to Grok. It's an AI that is dedicated to making sense of information that we normally see online. Now, Kenyans asked Grok, what does Eric Omondi have to do to make sure that this challenge is possible? Now, this is what Grok responded to. The total distance from Nairobi to where he's targeting that Mamangina front is around 486 kilometers over a 5-day walk. Now, listen, that means Eric Omondi and his entourage have to walk 97 kilometers a day. Listen, doesn't end there. For you to achieve that, the average walking speed has to be around 5 to 6 kilometers per hour. Like 1 hour of walking should help you achieve 6 kilometers. The least you can do is 5 kilometers, all right? That means for him to achieve this, he has to walk 16 to 19 hours a day. Yeah? And so Grok says it's extremely demanding and risky without rest. So meaning that this guy has only 8 hours to rest. 8 to 5 hours, depending if he achieves this 5 to 6 kilometers per hour. All right, now this is what Grok also says, that trained ultra walkers, those people who are trained to walk, unaona ile walking race yenye tulikuwa tunaenda pale primary school and high school, ile unatembea, all right? They're saying those ones, they can do it 80 to 100 kilometers a day. Like if you continue doing that, all right? So possible, but really challenging for a man who's not been trained. Whew. We're going to see how it goes, isn't it? This is one that we have to follow. Nilimwona kwa ambulance bana. Kadhani nikasema sasa amemaliza 16 hours kweli. I saw the likes of Jeff Koinange following. I saw the likes of OG, Papa Jones, going to join him. Let's see exactly whether he raises this money that he's looking for. And we wish him the very best for those 3 days. Woof. All right, this is Shapia who's saying, so many years ago, a man on a wheelchair did the same thing. Akafika pale Kajiado kaepa na pesa. Wacha tuone. That's it. All right, just one more. Mohammed Musa was saying, this is awesome for Eric Omondi. This 486-kilometer walk for a course is just commitment. Let's support the Sisi kwa Sisi Help and Rescue Center and this adventure too. All right? This is Chris Ogai who's saying, this nonsense of chasing clout to divert our focus of criticism of corruption. Bwanaje sasa, si ndiye aliamua kutembea. Ama ulikwambia melipwa na mtu mahali. Allah? All right, this is Tembo Kennedy who's saying, are the young ones not school-going children? The ones that we saw in that clip. That's what they're saying. This is Prita who's saying 406 kilometers. Akienda like 40 kilometers per day, ni kama 10 days plus, 4 days of walk, 100 kilometers per day. But we've already broken it down for you, Pieter. Yeah? He has to walk for 16 to 19 hours a day. What is, I've walked, yeah? The maximum I managed a day was 21 kilometers a day. 21, yes. And it was torture. A couple of days I just couldn't walk properly. Yeah? There's a man who's looking to do that on a daily basis for 4 days. Gonna see exactly how it goes. Wish him the very best. All right, let's move to the next trending issue this morning. It's a story that has also gotten Kenyans talking. It's about Treasury CS John Buddy, all right, who, speaking at State House yesterday, told the president that teachers and police are very, very excited to earn 30,000 shillings, all right? Like every time we meet police na walimu, wanapiga makofi sana, wakisema, hii 30,000 imetuokolea vibaya tu sana, hii ndio tunapenda, all right? And he was telling that to the president. Let's listen to him and then see exactly how Kenyans are reacting to this particular clip this morning.
We have been told a number of times, kindly put money in people's pockets. That the purchasing power of people has dwindled. Now when we say, looking at our population, looking at those who are employed, we go for those who are at the lower cadre because you campaigned on the platform of bottom-up economic transformation agenda. I was not with you in that, but I am now a student of that, and I've learned very well. I understand the bottom-up economic transformation agenda. Now, those who are earning 30,000 and below, we are saying should pay zero tax. And by the way, it is not just those who are earning 30,000 and below. Any money that you earn, which is 30,000 and below, even if you are earning $1 million, your 30,000 will also not be taxed. And then someone says that is not good enough. Look at how much that 6,000, from 24,000, which is not attracting tax today, to 30,000, is 6,000. Tax on 6,000 was 25%, a quarter of it, 1,500. Then someone is saying that is nothing. It is nothing to you because you're earning $1 million. But the person who is earning 30,000, it is a lot to give back that person 1,500. So wacha madarau, wacha kudarau hao watu. They feel it, and by the way, when I meet police officers, they are very happy. They are very excited with us, Your Excellency. The teachers who are earning 30,000 are very excited. And we have even gone a step further to propose that even the next 20,000, instead of taxing it at 30%, we tax it at 25%. That is another 5% off. That's another 1,000 shilling. It is nothing to you because your lunch is 10,000. But that person who survives on 6,000 per week, adding them 2,000, 3,000 is a lot of money. And that is what we intend to do. We want to give money to people who want to, we think if they get that money, it will make a difference.
So teachers and police, talk to us this morning. You guys are very, very happy. You're really excited about 30,000 Kenyan shillings. That's what Buddy is saying this morning, that when he meets you, you guys are really happy and you're excited. Amna washida, hata kidogo na 30,000. 30,000 by the way, hata yezi fuel gari yake kukuja hapo mahali mko. Yezi. Yezi kabisa gari yake. Aje sasa, yezi kunywa mafuta. Yeah? That's what he's saying. You know, and with a lot of bravado that every time he meets you, you guys are really excited. All right, let me just read a couple of comments here. Maybe I'm wrong. Yeah? Let me just read a couple of comments here that that Kenyans are talking about then on this particular issue. I got this one. Did I lose it? Here it is. All right. I've got this one from Carol, who's saying, my brother, what has happened to you? You used to think like a person. Now you completely stop thinking. That's one Carol, Corey. All right? I've got another comment here from Edward, who's saying, I need to know how many days he can spend 30K from his end. Ukweli, sindio? All right? This is Shori for Crochet Wanjiru, who's saying for crochet, sorry, who's saying, lol, patting yourself on the back for giving teachers 30K in this year of the Lord, 2026, bring back a little shame. Levi Ogega, who's saying, is forgetting that he will not hold that position for long. Soon he'll go back to the ground to ask for votes of the same people and Afinya. We shall see. Harry, who's saying, but if it's 30K and they get a house, that's good salary. Wewe ni walimu ngapi wamekwambia wamepata manyumba Harry? Yeah? Join, who's saying, nothing happens to them when they join government. It exposes them to exactly who they are. They get entrenched in greed and sycophancy. All right, let's then cross over to another trending issue this morning. And this essentially comes as a poster that Kenyans have erected along Ngong Road. And if you drive along Ngong Road this morning, or if you used Ngong Road, I think since Monday, yes, you would have seen this particular poster right here on Ngong Road. It's talking about we shall never forget. These are the injustices that have happened in the country, especially to the kidnappings, the killings of Gen Zs, and all those guys who were marching in the streets. And let me just read a couple of one or two comments before we cross over from this. This is from Stan. Next, the Stan was saying, next year we come together and hire all the billboards and populate them with such, specifically time year campaigns. That's what Stan is saying this morning. There is learn something every day. They were saying, what about Rivayala bodies, Amahau, Siwatu? All right. There is Derek, who's saying 2027 campaigns will hit the ground. I'm setting a budget for 70K to print flyers and stick them near all Ruto posters in my ward with images of shot, dead, and scandals. All right? This is Abraham Waswala saying, love this, Mapinduzi, Debeni. That's exactly what it is this morning. And this is another issue that is trending, so let's cross over to another one as well. This morning, there's Peter Salasia this morning was asking Kenyans, Nairobians to be specific, do you think this guy, actually this is Jalango, do you have the one? Yeah, him, yes, is up to the task because officially yesterday he announced that he's going to be running for the Nairobi senatorial seat. And this is the responses that majority of Kenyans have said. Senate is not for comedians, Bwana. This is Yose Katez, all right? Sims, this is Ambole John, who's saying Sims he has missed Jeff Kanange so much. He wants to go back to radio. Okay, all right. This is the data guy who's saying we all know the answer. All right, Amos Kairisi was saying you can't equate any task to Jalango if we are a serious nation. Arudi took ashikilie mic kwa radio. All right, Korea was saying, do we really deserve a comedian? All right, finally, one guy was saying you can't compare a dog with a lion. Even if it's raining, lion will still be strong. Nelson was saying, huyu amerudi tu Papa Shirandula hivyo. Not my words. The Nairobians really weighing in on this announcement of one Jalango. Finally then, to the last issue that we have for you this morning as trending. This is Kisii County Senator Onyonka, who has officially announced plan to exit ODM and join Jubilee Party as they get ready then for the 2027 elections. Let's listen to him and see how Kenyans are reacting to it.
Sitachukua muda mrefu sana kwa sababu hatuna wakati. Mimi nimekuja hapa kama yule anakuja kushuhudia chama cha Jubilee mnafanya nini, kwa sababu mimi niko opposition na nyinyi mko opposition. Kwa wale ambao hamnijui, mimi ni senator wa Kisii ambaye alichaguliwa na ODM. Lakini hivi karibuni mimi naingia Jubilee. Na tumesema hawatauza chama ya baba. So hiyo waachia sisi tutamanage. Now, nitasema vitu viwili tu. For Your Excellency, I'll start with Honorable Kioni. Honorable Kioni, I want you to listen to me. When you started the Jubilee story, I did not take you seriously. But you had a vision and you had a dream with this party. I want to thank you. Because if you were not there, this party would not have been anything. Your Excellency Fred Matiang'i, as you know, you are my friend and my...
That's it. There's a guy who's saying that he's going to leave ODM very, very soon and cross over to Jubilee. We do not know the fate of ODM, especially after this crunch talks that they're having in Mombasa today. This is Fred Gombe, who's saying he left ODM a long time ago. He's been roaming behind Matiang'i. He's just confused. Kizito, who's saying, and busy causing divisions in ODM. Kilo saying, good riddance. Wetoka tu kama unataka. All right, that's how it stands this morning. I might not go so much into your comment this morning. So that's a snapshot of what you're waking up to this morning. I would have spoken about Chelsea and Man United, but those are very small teams. I know Kenyans are talking about it here this morning. I mean, guys, we can't talk about teams that are not in the conversation for a title. All right. So probably if you meet me tomorrow, we can talk about Man City's results this evening, and then Arsenal's results on Thursday. We talk about that on Friday. But small teams like Man City and Chelsea that are not in a conversation for a title, we're not going to waste our times here this morning and talk about that. We'll talk about them over the weekend, if we have that time again. But the only teams worth talking about is Man City and Arsenal. And then they're not trending this morning, so we're not going to talk about that as well. We take a short break. Once we come back, the question is, this small money, big promises that these funding programs are giving you in the country, do they really have what it takes to grow a business? Once we come back right here on The Morning Drift. Good morning.
Taarifa zinapochipuka na kutufikia papa hapa kwenye makao makuu ya chumba cha habari cha runinga ya Lookup, kwenye taifa, kwenye serikali, kwenye bunge, tunajitosa hadi kwenye sauti ya wenyeji ili kupata tu maoni ya wenyeji kuhusu masuala haya yanayochipuka.
Maana hii kitu inaenda kuumiza Mkenya kwa tax.
Hakuna kitu tunafurahia. Nothing. Absolutely nothing.
Sisi tunaumia, si ati tunaumia ile ya kiukweli. Juu maisha ni ngumu.
Na bila shaka tunapata maoni yao ili sauti yao ipate kusikika. Na watasema hili, waseme lile, watasema hiki na waseme kile, almuradi sauti yao ipate taa.
Mambo ya mafuta tena imekuwa ni changamoto zaidi kwa kila mtu wa bodaboda.
Uchumi ikikuwa stable, tunaamini mambo itakuwa sawa sawa.
Kwanza liko na ria wa boda, mama mboga nini. Hao sasa ndio wamefinywa zaidi mazuri.
Mtazamaji, hii ni bunge la wenyeji.
I recall the doctor telling me that day, he said, Sarah, I'm sorry about what happened to you, but you see, life happens. You would have to learn to work with your hands. Depend on your hands more.
And today, if you're going through anything that you do not understand, just call on this name, Jesus, and he will save you.
I realized I loved music when I was about 7 or 8. I used to puff my cheeks and play the 12-bar blues. Like I'd walk around the house doing like...
Why do we need the Holy Spirit?
I mean, if you look at what Jesus said when he was leaving, he said he is going and that he will send the Holy Spirit as our helper.
So God knows everything since the end, from the beginning, has a plan for your life. So to find that plan for your life, you must find God. When you find God, you will know the path for your life.
For you to forgive someone who has hurt you. How easy is it? What are some tips, a person can apply to improve their public speaking skills?
We all have personality lazy somewhere around us.
In my mind, whenever I'm invited for a public speaking event, I don't like to put a lot of, accessories or too many colors.
What are the major things to look out when choosing a school for a child?
Another cheesy conversation starter is, men do this a lot. They look familiar. Have we met before? No. We met in
Nobody is buying that line again.
No, we don't. We don't buy it anymore.
Do you need a dose of hope? If so, you are in the right place. We think of ourselves around here as hope dealers, delivering truth, power, and inspiration to hearts and minds all over the world. If nothing else has worked for you, why not give the God thing a try? For it's in the presence of God that you'll find everything that you need. Amen.
Taarifa zinapochipuka na kutufikia papa hapa kwenye makao makuu ya chumba cha habari cha runinga ya Lookup, kwenye taifa, kwenye serikali, kwenye bunge, tunajitosa hadi kwenye sauti ya wenyeji ili kupata tu maoni ya wenyeji kuhusu masuala haya yanayochipuka.
Maana hii kitu inaenda kuumiza Mkenya kwa tax.
Hakuna kitu tunafurahia. Nothing. Absolutely nothing.
Sisi tunaumia, si ati tunaumia ile ya kiukweli. Juu maisha ni ngumu.
Na bila shaka tunapata maoni yao ili sauti yao ipate kusikika. Na wasema hili, waseme lile, watasema hiki, na waseme kile. Ni bunge la wenyeji.
Do you need a dose of hope? If so, you are in the right place. We think of ourselves around here as hope dealers, delivering truth, power, and inspiration to hearts and minds all over the world. If nothing else has worked for you, why not give the God thing a try? For it's in the presence of God that you'll find everything that you need. Amen.
Save a Life is a non-profit organization that has taken the front line in transforming lives in the entire country. So far, we have transformed life of over 100,000 people through our programs, which include medical support, youth empowerment, street family program, feeding program, and climate change. Join us today as we transform lives. As we always say, service to humanity is service to God. Save a life, transforming lives.
So many questions that I already have from you on this particular discussion that we're going to have this morning. And it's a good thing that our guest is already settled in the studio. And before I introduce the subject, I'm just going to go directly into some of the questions that have come in. I do have this one from David Jones. Good morning, sir. How are you doing, man? It's a good thing that you're watching this morning. And this, you gave me this question yesterday once you saw us floating the poster yesterday. And you're asking, to be an entrepreneur is a journey. Any program that will come in and support a business, you have to be with the entrepreneur for a year plus. Within that ecosystem, you have to have mentors, you have to have people giving you money, you have to have people coming in to evaluate your business and also help you improve your business. Ask your guest, it's a good thing that she's here, how many programs promise that in this country? What we tend to see is programs that are just dishing out money. It's a good thing that starting with that question as well. I'm going to move to the second one, Sule. Good morning, sir. How are you doing? And you were saying, looking forward to this conversation about businesses. Every other program in this country promises one and one thing, success. But then how is it possible that 90% of small businesses in this country that are new never get to see their second birthday? That is Sule. I was asking this question. All right, I'm going to move to the last one this morning. Shiro, good morning. It was good to meet you this weekend. I'm going to ask this question on your behalf. It's a good thing for me to use it as an introduction. And this is what you're saying. I am an entrepreneur. I have opened businesses in different sectors, especially in the service industry. Money is not it. Money is a by the way. Any program that promises success for small businesses in this country must first come in and impact on policy, impact on mentorship, impact on the business ecosystem, and money becomes the last thing in it. That's what Shiro is saying. Can you therefore ask your guest, what should come first? Why is everybody running towards money? Those are the 3 ones that I would like to use for our introduction this morning. But what were we talking about this morning? This morning, we are talking about small money, big promises, in this sense that every other funding project in this country is promising you proper success. I will start with the latest one, that is the Nyota Fund. If you have been a receiver of the Nyota Fund process, the 22,000 shillings that you already got, we hope that that small money is lived up to the big promise that came with it. And that's what we're going to talk about this morning. The question being, do these funding programs really promote businesses in the country? That's what we're talking about this morning. And it's a good thing that our guest is here. That is Liz Nguku. How are you doing? Happy New Year. Whew, you can hear. I've left out my introduction. I don't want to go into my introduction because of facts and figures that we really don't want to get about this morning. And just from that poster, you can see already a lot of guys have their concerns about the funding programs that come into this country. And Liz, you and I do know that Kenya is a fantastic spot for these funding programs. I mean, I've even watched videos where Kenyans are getting told that the easiest way for you to get this fund is rent a Mzungu, come up with a very nice proposal and say that a Mzungu is part of a board of directors and you get given money. But majority of these businesses, they don't succeed in this country. There are a lot of them that we've seen go under. I will start with Kune Foods, I'll start with Business 360, I'll go to Kopo. Majority of them, we've seen them in this country. And it's not like they don't have a turnover, they have a big turnover. But then when it comes to the business really doing its business, they never see the second birthday. Currently as it is, the most famous, the most popular program that the government is talking about is the Nyota Fund. And we've seen what the promise is. In fact, they've even broken it down for us. They're saying we're not just giving money, we're going to train these youth, we're going to train them about money management, we're going to train them about businesses, all the way up to where we are right now. But even before I come to you, this is what the World Bank assessment is on small and medium enterprises. It has consistently shown that capital alone does not build sustainable businesses. According to them, What matters is how funding is designed, communicated, supported, and integrated into a wider ecosystem that includes skills development, market access policy, stability, and trust. Now, according to them, in Kenya, results have been widely mixed. They're saying some sectors such as agribusiness, value chains, digital services, and creative industries have shown that modest funding combined with the right support can unlock growth and employment. But at the same time, audit report shows that the impact reviews reveal programs that disburse funds efficiently but struggle to produce lasting enterprises. That's it. That what we have in this country, according to the World Bank, is programs that, when it comes to disbursing money, fantastic. But when it comes to, okay, let's see what this money then does on the ground, we are not there. First question that I have for you this morning then, what comes first, ladies? Should it be this small money? Or should we go back to the World Bank report and say, maybe we need to relook this ecosystem and say, money later?
Thank you so much. And if you look at, I'll just start from where you ended. And when you give someone money, you've not sorted their problem. And that is where, if you look at how a program like Nota maybe has been organized, is such that there has to be training. And even before you get into the training, what is the process of sieving? And one of the things that people had to go through is a test of entrepreneurship. How is your mindset? How are you an entrepreneur by mindset? You know, is your mindset entrepreneurial? So before someone goes to the classroom to be trained, there's actually a couple of tests that they needed to go through. And that test ended up, and it may not be 100%, but it ends up saving the people who already have an entrepreneurial mindset. I think let's agree on one thing. Not everybody is an entrepreneur, and not everybody can be an entrepreneur. And it is okay to be not an entrepreneur. So the problem that we have is that we all think that we can start a business and it succeeds. And really, you are not that kind of person who is innovative, who can stick it in and just be able to move in. So even as we think through the money part, the question that we need to have or ask ourselves, how do we make sure that we are saving the true entrepreneurs so that they're the ones we are supporting and they're the ones we are able to grow? And then in addition maybe to what the government is doing, us as the private sector or us as the people within the country, how do we support the people that are already there? I think you talked about something interesting, that there are some organizations, yes, have been able to raise capital, but have not been able to follow through. So what are the unique things that us as Kenyans are looking for so that we can support these businesses other than the funding itself? Yes. So if you talk about something like Kune Foods, I think they saw an opportunity, but we are unique. I think I will pass to Kune and still go to a kiosk because that's where I feel that's why I feel like I'm at home. So understanding the nuances of where you're getting into is important, even as you go through the entrepreneurship journey. So that's one thing. The other thing is, how do we make sure that people are seeing the end in mind? So I'm not looking at this for the profit of tomorrow, but I'm looking at this in terms of an enterprise. And what I have seen, most of us as we start businesses, we are not looking at it in terms of scalability. It is in terms of day-to-day work. And that's why most of us are actually living in the business as opposed to outgrowing the business so that other people can come in. So even as we think about entrepreneurship, the question is, what are these skill sets that people must get? So not only training, because what are you training people on? So one of the things that we have done is that at the authorities, we are now standardizing the training. What must I get right? Even before I move to the next level. If I start my business today, I need to see what is the access to the market. How will this continue? That's one thing that we must train people on. Then how do I make sure that I am appealing to that person? So that's where branding becomes a big issue. Then the other question is, within the government network, where do I hold you to the right place? So you have to think about support of the person. Finance is one of the pillars, but we have 4 other pillars that everybody needs to be aware of.
Yes, yeah, pretty much. Let's go back a little bit and look at our topic this morning. I came to realize that every other funding program in this country is really talking about the big picture. It's the big promise. You can be independent. You can grow your business and make it a big business. But in reality, this is small monies that we're talking about. And I keep on referencing the Nyota Fund because because that's why I find this conversation of small money coming in. I mean, if you look at the first tranche that they were given, is 22,000 shillings for those who were able to qualify and go through the entire process. And then they were told the second tranche, which I think is coming this week, isn't it, is going to be another 22,000 shillings. So give or take, you have 44,000 shillings that is supposed to come in and mold you and help you kickstart this journey for entrepreneurship. What is that small money? I mean, averagely in this country, when you want to start a stable enterprise, 44,000 shillings, it's still small money. Why is this big promise coming from?
The way I would look at it is 44,000, 22,000 might look little money. And I will just want to reference some of the stories that the president got when he is going around the country and just talking to these people who are going to get this money, yes, and what promises they have. So for me and you, maybe 22,000 looks small. But for someone who has been selling eggs and has already started, is already in that process, that translates to an equipment that they have been yearning to get, but they didn't have the means to get it. So for that particular person, actually the 2,000 means a lot to them. Yeah? So if you look at what has happened in the way the Nyota is programmed, is that if I'm running a business or I have a mind that I can run a business, this 22,000 might look little, but there is something that can actually grow out of it. I'll also give you another example of when I was running the Hustler Fund, the yes, stories that we got.
Yes.
There was one of the guys who got a present from the president, which was a tuk-tuk. That person was employed for the longest time. So what he used to do, he would actually just use the fund to fuel, and then he would pay back at the end. When that person got their funding to about, because I think it grew from, I think the first time it went all the way to close to 50,000, that particular person now was able to actually grow. So it depends on what you're looking at. So is it going to be 100% successful? Maybe not. But in such situations whereby you're looking at mass market, you're looking at over 100,000 people being funded, if you got a 50-70% chance of success, then the program is really, really successful.
Yes.
So the challenge we have is when we look at this from a privileged perspective, where I think is where most of us are, this does not make sense. But for someone who is in narrow, where I come from,
yes,
this means a lot, because let me take you step by step, and I don't think any of them will do this, but I understand agriculture because that's where I was brought up. That is, with 22,000, I'm able to actually do a couple of things. Get half an acre, get fertilizer, and get a sack or two of potatoes. In 6 months, if I'm diligent, I don't need any laborer to actually help me plant that. In 3 months, 4 months, I am harvesting. If I harvest that amount of money from the 22,000, I'm even not looking at the second tranche. I'm looking at this particular one. I get a good market. I will go home with 50,000. So from a point of privilege, 22,000 is very little. But from a true Kenyan who has not had the privilege of going to school and who must make it, 22,000 is not little money. And then remember, the program has gone a step further and said, okay, for you in particular, when you grow old, the only hope you have is that your kid will take care of you. And now, let me show you what you can do with money. Let me take this money to NSSF, and this money into NSSF will help you start thinking, how will my old age look like? So when you look at this 22,000 as a finality, there is a problem. But when you look at it in terms of it is a seed I'm planting, it is something I'm communicating, that it is possible to start here without really looking at, almost like respecting the small beginnings, then there is hope into it. But what I don't think to be 100% successful, because yes, some of us could have been very good in terms of taking the entrepreneurship test, but when it comes to grow, things are different.
That's it.
So if you get a 50-60% success rate, and then you're able to employ one extra person, it now becomes a ripple effect. So we need to look at it completely and say,
yes,
some of us will be successful, but some of us will be employees of these successful people.
That's it.
And if you did that, then the employment conversation now changes quite a bit.
That's it. Now let's jump in then, Liz, because everybody knows the wider picture in this country. Well, there's the narrative that doing business in this country, one, is difficult. We do know that. I mean, every other entrepreneur will tell you, oh, business is not easy. But then business in Kenya is also difficult. I will not get into the nitty-gritty of why it's difficult because that's not the conversation this morning. But in terms of the first training that an entrepreneur needs to get into, if there's a funding program right here it is. We have a funding program that we want to push into the Kenyan economy. And we're targeting entrepreneurs to grow their businesses. In fact, I was reading this morning on the Daily Nation, Ethiopia investors are looking at Kenya as a startup economy. They want to come in and then pump in funds to help smaller businesses grow. I mean, if you're part of the investors who are coming in from Ethiopia with that funding program, what should be the first training point for the businesses that you're targeting? Because indeed, if you're targeting a group of businesses, it's still going to be small money. Because the entrepreneur at the end of the day is the one who's supposed to come in and do business in the country.
Yeah.
Your small money that you're investing in the economy, where should you target this training first? Or do we put in the money to the businesses that are already existing and say, these are already entrepreneurs? But if you go that direction, then Liz, why is it that 90% of these businesses then never see the second birthday?
So the way I would look at what is the one skill that each entrepreneur should have? What is the one skill that we must know? It is that it's not going to be easy. So it's a mindset problem, I think, that we have as we get into business, because we think that because you got into it, you succeeded, it's going to be the same. What we do not tell you is the tears that these people go through. Even the successful business or the so-called successful business, speak to any entrepreneur who has walked that journey. So most of the problems that we have is that we sell quick success. So if there is one module that must be introduced into the entrepreneurship world is mindset, it's not going to be easy, and ability to change. Because whatever, you'll do a very nice market research. Perfect, it works, fundable, 100%. But when you go to the ground, things are different. So how do you quickly change and get people to move on? And not necessarily run away from the idea that you have, but look at the ground and say, what is this product, how is this product adaptable? So what I would really, really think is, even before you get to the funding, the question is, how do you select the right entrepreneurs to fund? So that is very important. And then part of that conversation is understanding the people's mindset and what will happen when things get difficult. So even as we do that, then we take another step back and ask ourselves, what are the policy gaps that we see? And that is why the Micro Small Enterprises Authority exists. What do they do? Registration of MSMEs, and then so we can be able to identify the gaps that are in there, and we become the advocate of that. So what do I say is the significant gap for the people who are coming in? One, how do you select the right person to partner with? And then number two, which are the right offices that you need to walk around, and who is going to handhold you into those? Yes. Because you will need, and then if you talk about most of the banks, they are looking at businesses in terms of value chain. So if, for example, I'm getting to the leather value chain, I need to make sure that the person that I'm looking at there to fund, how are they, I have to walk back and I have to walk to the front, whereby if this person is producing leather, am I sure that they have constant supply? And if they don't, then I need to make sure that the people that are supplying them are actually working and they have sufficient supply. And then we go to the next level, where they're selling these things. So everybody who is coming to this conversation, other than maybe looking at what the government is doing, the question is all of us who are focused on the MSMEs, who are focused on helping this country grow, we need to take a step further and ask ourselves what else is required. And if this is the funding that is coming, so we need to play almost like a step further and say, what is required and where can we play in? Yes. So I see a huge opportunity for people in the financial sector, even as the government catalyzes what is here. Remember, the government is not coming in to say this is a solution. What they are doing is catalytic. They are just particularly saying, this person could not have given money because they had no records. But today, I'm betting on them, but as I bet on them, I have trained them to actually be able to grow their business, So can you do more? So that is in the doing more that we actually need to ask ourselves. This funding that people are coming in, they won't come for startups, but how do they come in the right way?
That's it.
Yeah.
Which then forms my next question. It's what the World Bank is saying, that our funding programs have a very nice funding model, that this is exactly how we're going to raise this money, and this is how we're going to disburse this money. But then they're incomplete in the sense of you're funding businesses. Can you give me a breakdown of these businesses that you want to fund, or this economy, or this industry that you want to get into? What type of businesses are existing in this particular sector or industry? And what is the general outlook? And this is where my next question comes in. In this country, we say 80% of employment in this country is in the informal sector. That's where you find a lot of small businesses that are existing in the different sectors in this country. But then we fail to break down these businesses and actually give us demographics of these businesses and say, these businesses are like this and this and this. Good. So that these programs are now coming in, and somebody gave me a perfect example yesterday of what the Nyota Fund missed, and probably you're in a good position to respond to that. That the Nyota Fund should have actually said, we have money, good. This money is 50,000 shillings, good. We know the businesses in this country that you can start with 50,000 shillings, good. If you are in this business, that's the only way that you can qualify. And then they would have gone in and given us the names of the people that are in these businesses and said, what we're going to do is come in with this program. This program comes in different facets. It's got the training aspect, the funding aspect, the policy aspect, which is also big in it. And then say, this is exactly where this money is supposed to go into. That in that respect, you're going to find a bigger success rate, Liz. But now, here's the problem, is that we have the money, we know where to put it, but then allocating it properly, making sure that this money actually succeeds, we still don't have it today. In the informal sector, 80% of our employment is in the informal sector. A lot of businesses are there. But what businesses are those? We do not know. Nyota Fund didn't even give us that. They picked youth at random and said, we've tested you. You can actually be a good entrepreneur. You trained me. Why couldn't they tell us this is the business that we're targeting? Is that program lacking that facet?
I'll take it differently. By the time you walk, you're born, you walk, you go to preschool, and then you specialize later. So, Nyota program is actually like the incubation nursery school kind of thing. When you go to the education sector, for example, when now people are going to grade 8, is it grade 10, year 10?
It. Yes.
We even don't know when they are told to select STEM or select, or they're still confused. Yeah?
Yes.
We are all trying to figure it out.
That's it.
So what Nyota is supposed to, is to help people understand what they want to get into, because you do not want to lock people up front. So what the government has done, together with the World Bank, they have 2 projects. They have the Nyota project and they have the KJET project. So the Nyota project, it's the sieving ground. It is the seeding. You know, this is what we are doing. We believe that there are good people who the world was not fair to them. They did not get what we have. So let's try and incubate them. Let's try and help them. Let's try and see what they can do, what they can get to. That's one part. Then we have number 2. We have the other one that is now the KJET project, whereby we are saying these are the value chains we care for. We believe that this is where the world is going to. These are the opportunities. So talk about things like edible oil. Talk about things like maybe the dairy and all that. There are a couple of value chains that the government is looking into. And they have looked at people who are in that value chain, and they are actually training them, and they will end up getting funding.
Yes.
So the challenge, what am I saying? I see the challenge is also maybe just seeing the whole picture end to end, because if we came all of us and said, okay, fine, we do not care about trade, because most of the people who come at the very low end, they're really in trade. And trade is not an easy thing to fund, because it's very different.
Yes.
But what is going to make a big difference, it's really the other value chains that are focused on more than trade. So if you look at Nyota, most of the thing is really just who can do it and who has the stamina to do it so they can actually grow to scale to the next level. But in addition to that, there are other programs that are there that are actually supposed to help and allocate their resources according to how we see opportunities.
That's it, pretty much. Liz, I want you to hold your thought right there, because now once we come back, this is where we have proper direct questions that are going to be coming to you. We're also talking about programs. It's not the very first time that we're seeing programs like a Nyota program, because in a nutshell, you could say it has existed already in this country. We have the Youth Fund, we have MSME programs as well that are also within the Enterprise Fund as well. But then reports are showing it's quite an uneven impact across the counties. And even as we're talking about funding as well in this country, they also have a very big funding challenge for majority of small businesses in the country. Once we come back, we'll be looking at, even with the existence of these funds, even with Women Fund as well, youth programs that are really targeting this youth and women and special groups across the country. Why are they not giving us results? Are we designing problems over and over again without really targeting where the problem is in this country? Is that why every other program is telling you, we've got money for you, and if you come into this program, you're going to grow big, that big promise? Once we come back right here on the Morning Drift, I still do have a couple of your responses right here this morning. I can see Jane is saying, say hi to Liz this morning. I have a question for her once we come from this break as well. I also do have one from Christine as well, who's watching us this morning, saying, I also do have a question. I'll be reading those questions once we come back from this break. Good morning. The hashtag is the Morning Drift. Our WhatsApp lines are right there on your screen.
Do you need a dose of hope? If so, you are in the right place. We think of ourselves around here as hope dealers, delivering truth, power, and inspiration to hearts and minds all over the world. If nothing else has worked for you, why not give the God thing a try? For it's in the presence of God that you'll find everything that you need. Amen.
I recall the doctor telling me that day, he said, Sarah, I'm sorry about what happened to you, but you see, life happens. You would have to learn to work with your hands, depend on your hands more.
And today, if you're going through anything that you do not understand, just call on this name, Jesus, and he will save you.
I realized I loved music when I was about 7 or 8. I used to puff my cheeks and play the 12-bar blues. Like I'd walk around the house doing like...
Why do we need the Holy Spirit?
I mean, if you look at what Jesus said when he was leaving, he said he's going and that he will send the Holy Spirit as our helper.
So God knows everything since the end, from the beginning, has a plan for your life. So to find that plan for your life, you must find God. When you find God, you will know the path for your life.
Taarifa zinapochipuka na kutufikia papa hapa kwenye makao makuu ya chumba cha habari cha runinga ya Lookup, kwenye taifa, kwenye serikali, kwenye bunge, tunajitosa hadi kwenye sauti ya wenyeji ili kupata tu maoni ya wenyeji kuhusu masuala haya yanayochipuka.
Maana hii kitu inaenda kuumiza Mkenya kwa tax.
Hakuna kitu tunafurahia. Nothing. Absolutely nothing.
Sisi tunaumia, si ati tunaumia ile ya kiukweli. Juu maisha ni ngumu.
Na bila shaka tunapata maoni yao ili sauti yao ipate kusikika. Na watasema hili, waseme lile, watasema hiki, na waseme kile, almuradi sauti yao ipate taa.
Mambo ya mafuta tena imekuwa ni changamoto zaidi kwa kila mtu wa bodaboda.
Uchumi ikikuwa stable,
tunaamini mambo itakuwa sawa sawa.
Kwanza liko na ria wasi wa boda, mama mboga nini. Hao sasa ndio wamefinywa zaidi man.
Mpenzi mtazamaji, hii ni bunge la wenyeji.
All right, welcome back to the Morning Drift. My name is Simba Elijah Charles Kiaja. Let's talk about this topic that we have here this morning. It's about small money, big promises. We're talking about how funding programs can actually lead to sustainable businesses in the country. The numbers on the ground do not really support that they indeed do. Just before I cross over to Liz, read a couple of your comments this morning. I do have one from Christine. Christine is saying, good morning, Simba, watching this closely. I am one of those who've gone through this. All right, youth fund in the country. She's talking about youth fund in the country and saying that while I was a member of the youth fund, we were given money, but then you find that some youth are just in it for the money as opposed to businesses. I feel that had this business had mentors and officials who are following up on it, it would have gone very far as well. Good. That's the one that I have this morning. I'll keep on looking at what we have this morning as well so that you can respond to it. But even as you respond to that as well, the question that I have for you here this morning is that it's not the very first time we're even seeing these government-led funding programs for youth in the country. I mean, special groups in the country like the women and the youth have always been targeted by previous governments. But then this data that we have here, it indicates that we have an uneven impact on the ground, even by these government-led funding programs. For some that have existed for quite a long time, like this, the youth programs and the women programs, you would like to think that by now, up to the point of introducing the Nyota Fund, we'll be talking about success and we'll be having real numbers that we would ride on and say, if you look at previous programs that have been in this country, they've given us this result. We believe that Nyota will ride on this one so we get proper results. But we're still in the dark. It's still not black and white.
Maybe that could be the case, that there's no a specific place that you can go get the data. But one of the things that is very clear, remember all these programs, they're actually clear success stories. That's why before you get funding from the national government, you still have to show where the funds have gone.
That's it.
And I would like to maybe think about they're really good success stories, but remember, most of the time we want to focus on things that really are not maybe working. Think about something like the Kenya Industrial Estates. They are incubators of manufacturing companies. They have done that for a very long time, and they continue to do it even today. So they are clear success stories. I'm not saying they are maybe like maybe the number of people that we're giving, who are getting funding from Nyota, but they are there. They are success stories. Maybe, I keep saying the biggest problem we have is maybe we are not telling the story better, we are not communicating, and also there is also biasness. Because you listen, at times you listen and hear what you want to hear. So that's also a big problem. But one of the things that I would commend about Nyota is, one of the things they have done is they have allocated funds to the ward level. So the allocation was not at national level, it was to the ward level. And that is why you will actually see, if there is any ward that anyone has not been picked, I don't think there is. So there was a target of every ward has to get something. So that is one of the things that is different. So that distribution will be easy for us now to track and see what is going on and what can be done. So other than maybe looking at this in terms of others have not worked, the question is what is different this time? What is different this time is the distribution. And now the other thing is, in addition to the government employees now who are in every county who help with the various projects, what has happened is that there was a blend between the private sector, whereby now the business development service providers are actually the people who are training, were actually from the private sector as well. So there's a blend between government and also the BDS providers who are from the private sector. So that is also something different.
Yes.
And the way the program is that you are trained, you get the first, you are mentored for 2 months. You're trained, you're mentored, and then you get the funding. Then you continue doing your business. The mentorship continues before you get the next tranche.
That's it.
So if you look at someone who is able to faithfully track this money, track and get into this program for a long time, you'll definitely see some results, because if you're taken through that program, your people are being very candid with you, they're giving you the feedback as it is, you are highly likely to succeed. Even if you, and I keep saying, even if you get a 50% success rate, that is significant. It can be a significant game changer, because talk about 100,000, they employ an extra 1 person or 2 people, that is significant. So I think now the focus is just how are we able to tell the story? And that should be the focus area. How do we tell the success stories of all these things? Because they have been successful.
Yes.
And when we look at people who have gotten funds and grown their businesses, they are there.
That's it.
Yeah.
Maybe the next question is going to be a game changer in this discussion, Liz, that we're having. And I keep on referring to this World Bank report that is now indicating that if you look at women-led enterprises in Kenya, it shows that access to capital improves when funding is paired with peer networks and market linkage. Is that what our funding programs now should shift to? And I keep on referring to Nyota and the program that we've seen in the country, that then if you're able to come in as a programs manager and say that the first thing that we have to do is create a sure market for the people that we're targeting with our fund. Make sure that once these guys go to market, they're not going to look for this market. The market is already there. Then after that, only after that, can we give them this money? Because without ensuring that their products and services can go to market, then they're still at the same level.
Yes, because at the end of the day, the only way you can scale is if your market grows. So at least what is happening at the authority side,
yes,
access to market has become a big conversation, and opening up the market to the entire of Africa, AFTCA and everything, those are works that are happening on the back end. But remember, by the time you're looking at market, one of the biggest problems that you also have as a country is, or as entrepreneurs, is scale. So if, for example, you got a huge order of things, let's say of shoes, for example, at times fulfilling that order is a problem. So it's really a curtain, and again, something, because you're like, if I look for the market and then I can't get enough shoes, credibility is dented. So these things have to go together. And that's what, again, I go back to KJET, what they're trying to do is to make sure that they're looking at this end to end. So even as we think about how we are growing you, we're also thinking about how we're helping you export, how we're helping you grow. So there are a couple of discussions that are already ongoing in terms of thinking about access to market.
Yes.
So the problem, again, as we go through the entrepreneurs, the various pillars of running a successful business, market plays a significant role. And even as we get the market for you, remember, you have to be appealing. So we are helping you in terms of branding and standing out. Why you? Yeah, so all those things have to come together, even as but you cannot delink that with funding, because they have to go together. Because remember, this entrepreneur cannot be able to create scale if they have no funding.
That's it.
And the government and the financiers are not going to give them funding if they have no market. So you have to narrow and let these people speak together. And I keep going back to the private sector. Even as much as government is helping, what is the private sector doing? When someone comes to you for funding, the question is, we need to now come into an ecosystem whereby we are training people in funding. I was speaking to one of the bankers, and one of the things that I saw, or we were having a conversation, was very many people get through the funding, they get an offer letter. But the problem is that on the drawdown, 90% of the people who do applications, they get their offer letters, but less than 50% drawdown. So we need to figure out what is the issue. Yeah. So, and part of the problems will be because by the time they're giving you an offer letter, they see that you can pay. But the question is, how do we do this sustainably? So I feel like, in as much as it's a government conversation, I feel like 90% of it should be private sector led.
Yes.
Because at the end of the day, if for example, you have seen a market, integrating backwards with the government is very easy. Let's say, for example, today you have gotten a huge order on the, I go back again to the leather value chain. We can be able to mobilize people who are in that value chain and be able to actually specifically train them to the quality that you want and the number that you require. So training for the sake of training can happen, but it's not the best, it's not the ideal. So I feel like it is a give and take whereby the private sector says, this is what we're seeing, this is what we're seeing. And for us, we come in and just give it the last shot.
That's it.
Yeah.
But my next question is going to be conjoined with what you've just presented, Liz. I was looking at it, and it's a conversation that I've kept on having from time to time. Every time we meet my peers outside, I'm like, maybe we need to change the funding policy in this country. Maybe the government needs to sit down and say, look here, before you invest money in this country, whether it's grant, whether it's World Bank, whether it's any other person, all right, looking to invest money in this country, first, your funding program needs to meet the following facets. You need to tell us who you're funding. You need to tell us what market you're going into. You need to tell us at what point you're going to work with these people that you're funding before you exit. All right? That only then and there can we start saying we are achieving success in this country through our business funding programs. Because this is what I find a bit awkward. Even the Nyota Fund, like the biggest celebration that we're having out of the Nyota Fund is just the amount of money that we've been able to push out, as opposed to us focusing on the amount of money that we've been able to sustain out of that program. We look at figures and say, such billions so far have gone out. That's a really good figure. So we celebrate how much has gone out. But then in terms of sustainability, we are not talking about it. Again, that question also comes from this perspective, that even our country currently as it is, it's starting to get a negative report from international investors who say we are leading in East and Central Africa in terms of the money that has been put into businesses in our local economy. But then again, on the flip side of that, the number of businesses that have been funded and failing right in front of our eyes is also quite large. Do you think then that the government now needs to sit down and say, we need to clean out the funding ecosystem in the country and say, yes, we are accepting all that money. But then, can we make it easier for the businesses that you're putting this money in, and also for the programs, either private-led or government-led, that are investing money in the businesses in the country? Is that what needs to happen, Liz?
I usually lean towards private sector more, because that's my background.
That's it.
I don't think so. In most cases...
But how come, Liz? How come? I mean, I don't want to go and read a number of businesses that have failed in this country. And they've received billions in funding. Some have gone up to the third round of funding, but then they never get to see the second birthday.
So what I see is, in most cases, funding coming into the country is a good thing. Definitely a very, very good thing. So... And if we wait for government regulators to lead, we'll not move. Mm-hmm. Most of the world changes, the country changes, actually have been led by the private sector.
That's it.
And I think if you look at what is happening, the government is very receptive to policy changes, to changes if people bring in. But there needs to be specific conversation. I want to take a step back and just deviate slightly from the MSME and go to the investment world.
That's it.
Look at what happened yesterday. The launch of ZD, a significant change. Had we waited for government to say now go digital, it would never have worked. Had we waited for M-Pesa for someone to say, oh, we need a money transfer service, M-Pesa would never have been there. But it's a game changer. But once something changes, you can see the country rallying around it. So what I think should happen is people should, especially people in the private sector, the businesses that are failing, the challenges that they are facing, there are very clear ways in which you can actually get hard and make changes to policy. So the thing is, we need to look at this in form of an ecosystem and say, these are the challenges we have. who can listen to us? Who should we go to? Yes. And then once we go to that person, if it is going to be the CS, it's going to be the president or whoever it is, they are going to listen. Because one thing that I'm sure, we all want a better Kenya. We all want to fund these businesses and they grow. So the question is, how do we lead together? It cannot be that the government is leading or the private sector is leading. We have to co-lead. So that as we co-lead this, we can actually see changes. So what do I see as the changes that needs to happen? I think as the businesses are being registered, we need now to have a clear place whereby we can say, okay, Simba registered this, we have trained him, and this is how he's gone. And these are his bankers. And the work is, I know most of us will look at it in terms of maybe we want to get more taxes, so we're like, oh, I don't want to do that. But look at the positives that can come with that. Because we are complying with KRA right now. We are going to. So the question is, with that compliance, what is the support that we require? Because we have the data, we will have the data anyway. Yes. So I see the biggest challenge, as I see it, is how do we collect this data and create reports that are policy, they are able to influence policy. So I see that is where the next focus should be, whether it is within government, and it has to be really government-led, but private sector has to jump in terms of providing that ability to get the data, analyze it, and get information out of it.
Pretty much. I'll ask you this as well. I mean, post-2020, the COVID period, if there's something that it taught us, is that digital businesses and digital economy, that's exactly what was going to expand the Kenyan economy. Now, when it comes to lending businesses as well, we also saw that digital lending took like a massive jump post the COVID-19 era. I mean, if we were saying that accessing money is not a problem, Liz, because we are leading in terms of the digital forms of lending. I mean, today I don't have to think twice about what I'm getting. I'm surrounded by all these forms of digital lending around me. Is it also possible to say that money is not a problem in this country? Let's not lie to each other that money is a problem. That for any other person who wants to start a business in this country, if you really want to start a business, that the money is there. That what is not really there is that the economy has not really opened up to supporting businesses that are starting up. Somebody told me yesterday, Simba, we can't sit here and say that we only had to wait up to Nyota Fund for somebody to access 22,000 shillings in this country. I said that's a lie. That had we gone to a different way, either through private means like you're putting it this morning, or the government really talking to investors in this country, the digital lenders, and there are so many of them in this country, some of them are fighting to get licenses to still remain legal in this country, that money will be available. But the only thing that has not really been unlocked, either by bad ecosystem or bad policies, is that the business environment in this country is still not unlocked, despite the stress that we need to go the informal sector, that we need to start businesses. Is that what it is? Do you share the same sentiment that money is not a problem in this country? That what is a problem is sustaining this money that is going into the small businesses?
Money has never been a problem. There is always money that goes to good businesses.
Yes.
However, what do I think is the biggest problem? Financial literacy. Tell me, Simba, today, which business you will run through a digital funding model that is charging you annualized cost of capital of 300%. Yeah? So I access you. By the time you're giving me money, I'm definitely going to default. There is no business today that I will run and the cost of capital is 300%, because even operation it says I cannot be able to run. So the capital is there, but the wrong form of capital. And once you put the wrong form of capital in the business, it fails. That is no debate about it. Mm-hmm. So when I think about inclusion, access, we've gotten it right, 100%. Anyone can, actually there are some things these days I see on, I don't know where they get the data.
Yes.
But you just get some text, you're like, I've never heard of that application.
It's true.
There are so many.
Yeah.
So access is not a problem, but they're pricing you to a point of failure. And that is why, if you look at the non-performing loans for the digital, out of this world. So would I say that people should borrow to get into business? No.
And I'm sorry to cut you short there, and you're going to continue with that thought. But whose failure is it that these lenders are charging that much in this country? I mean, Liz, is that what we're talking about? That the ecosystem is not being really thought about in a 360 degrees format? That here you are saying as a government, we want young people to do businesses in this country. We want more lenders to come into this country and provide this money for these businesses that are going to start up. But you're sitting there from a policy point of view, and you're saying we have access in this country, but when you look at this access, it's actually killing these businesses.
And again, I go back to being a parent, because government is like a parent.
Yes.
You have to allow people to grow, a step by step. I think before 2020, when you borrowed, everybody in your database or whatever would have been asked that you have not repaid.
That's true.
What has the government done? They have created some sort of dignity in that level, right? If you borrow, you default. First of all, there is levels to CRB and all that, and there is a little bit of dignity. So as baby steps, because remember when you just come and just take policy and change policies all let her go, you have a problem, because now you're also going to create, almost like kill the ecosystem. So what I feel is there has to be steps towards success. And I think those are the little steps that the government has to continue taking.
Yes.
If you see how do government influence policy in terms of interest rates, it is through the CBR, through Central Bank of Kenya. We have seen they've been very consistent, bringing it down. So the transition mechanism, has to be now collaboration between government and the private sector. They cannot tell you now, okay, fine, based on your risk model, this is what you need to do. They have done that for the banking sector, whereby they have come up with risk-based pricing model, and they are giving you time to adjust. But remember, if you're a risky person, you still get back to your high level. So what then I see as the biggest problem is, and this is collaboration between government again and private sector, how do we let people make the right decisions? How do you empower people to make the right decision? And that is why I come in and say, financial literacy is the biggest challenge we have today. Not at the investment level, but even at business levels. Because if you're running an MSME, how often are you able to look at your numbers and say, okay, this is what I need to cut? So what then have I seen being done? The programs that have been brought into market, financial literacy is one of the biggest things that is coming in, and it is in two stages, business finance and personal finance. Because again, remember, scalability of businesses means that these businesses should run without you, so then the business now should be able to pay you. So there has to be a 360 conversation about what is the right mindset financially for the people running businesses. So it's a policy conversation, but it is more practice that needs to go through.
That's it.
Yeah.
Pretty much. Now we have 3 minutes left for this conversation. I've got 2 questions that I have to start, that I've got to ask you this morning. First then, if we're talking about whether indeed funding programs really build businesses in the country, let's take a case in point, the Nyota Fund. From what point are we going to judge the Nyota Fund and start saying, you know what, if you're going to judge a funding program in this country, then judge them from this perspective. If we're going to look at Nyota, at what point are we going to look back and say, it worked, it did not work, and how are we supposed to judge its efficacy?
So things need to grow.
That's it.
And so what needs to happen is that we will track the people who have gotten the funding and give annual reports or 6 months reports so that you can actually be able to see how progress is.
Yes.
And it's not progress in the context of these people started businesses in the end, they didn't work. I feel it's in identifying the gaps. So, and I'm just hypothetically saying maybe the people who get this X number of funding, 80% of them get or fall off because of ABCD, and then now that is a policy conversation that you would have there. So I see it's not I won't say 6 months, 1 year. It is more of what is the progression conversation that we are getting that are going to feed into the changes that are going to be done into the future.
Pretty much. Yeah. All right, the final question then this morning. Do you believe that Kenya has made the right steps to improve the business funding ecosystem in the country, or have we left it to private sector players?
I think the government is playing a good role in terms of coming up with the right signals.
That's it.
I'll go back to MPC. The central bank is really signaling, and you need to bring this down. They have come up with a model that this needs to come down. So I would say that, yes, there is significant steps that the government has taken to get to that level. What can be done? I go back to the consumer of the funding is the problem. We are the problems as the Kenyans because we are desperate, so we take whatever we get. So if we can be able to create ability for that desperation to be muted, so that now I can actually think professionally, not exactly professionally, I can think soberly. For me to be able to say, okay, I'm getting this funding and this is where I'm going, this is what I'm going to do. So what the government has done is it is instilling the skills to think through. Because you can always teach someone to think as opposed to giving them the solution.
Yes.
So that is what we are. I see, and I keep saying it is a government-led, but private sector-backed.
That's it.
Yes.
Pretty much. Liz, thank you very much for joining us this morning.
Thank you.
Now, you do know, I mean, if indeed you do believe that the business funding ecosystem in the country is working, then you would talk to us. But if you look at the number of businesses that have been heavily funded in the country and failed, then you would also open this conversation to another scope as well. In conversation with Elizabeth Kuku this morning, who's really looked at what it means for business funding programs in the country to start ticking. At the end of the day, begins with you, starts with you as well. All right, take her back to the time that she joined us in the studio this morning at Look Up TV across all your social media platforms. For all those who've been able to contribute to our show this morning, I really do appreciate. And for those who have not been able to read their contribution this morning, you know what I'm going to do, respond to you after the show as well. Goodbye, I'll see you another day for another conversation.
We value your feedback.